Well, blessed fourth day of Christmas. This is your daily encouragement, and we are going through the themes of each day. And we'll have some other themes coming up here. There is a beautiful hymnal, the African American hymnal, that will give us some themes for the rest of the time that we spend together. But each of them deal with how we witness to the truth. We've had the example of Stephen. We've had the example of John, the apostle. Very different witnesses and wonderment on how we are going to witness. But then there are some who were born who didn't really expect to be witnesses and tragically died because of the birth of Jesus. And that is recorded in the Gospel of Matthew. Now, I'll just say, historians have tried to find exactly when this happened. But even the skeptical ones will say this is not out of character for Herod to act this way. In fact, this is probably something Herod did more than just during the birth of Jesus. He was a very paranoid man, and he was someone who did not want anybody to take the throne. And so while we might remember specific ones that died because of Jesus' birth, we have to remember that there have always been martyrs for young lives for different reasons, and they are tragic. Whether they be caught in wars like our most recent one between Israel and Gaza, where it says that many children are dying, or whether it be the struggles that we have in this life for reasons. I know that there is a lot of struggle about birth and when life begins and tragic deaths that either some might say don't need to take place or need to take place because of necessities. Sometimes they're flippant reasons. Of course, that's the debate about abortion today. What are the reasons why we need to or don't need to take life? And those are complicated things that young, innocent lives tragically get lost in the midst of the quote unquote grown up controversies. And so all of these enter into the mix as we remember the holy innocents as witnesses and how vulnerable Jesus was when he entered into the scene, that he could be taken out by the sword of a tyrannical ruler. And so we have here in Matthew chapter 2, beginning with verse 13. Now, after they, the Magi, left, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream and said, "Get up, take the child and his mother, and flee to Egypt and remain there until I tell you." Now, in some ways, this is prophetic about Jesus, who will be like Israel, who will be in Egypt for a period of time, and then will come back. You'll see that verse come up. But there's a very specific reason why the angel told Joseph to do this, because his life would not be safe in Bethlehem anymore. And sometimes when people are refugees, they have to flee places and go to other ones. That's why we have to remember when someone is a refugee, we don't always know the circumstances of which they leave. But we have to remember that these are innocent lives that get caught up in the politics of the world. But God was protecting this child Jesus. And he remained there until I tell you, for Herod is about to search for the child and to destroy him. Then Joseph got up and took the child and his mother by night and went to Egypt and remained there until the death of Herod. This was to fulfill what was spoken by the Lord through the prophet, "Out of Egypt I have called my son." In other words, there's the Bible prophecy about this event according to Matthew. When Herod saw that he had been tricked by the wise men, he was infuriated and sent and killed all the children in and around Bethlehem who were 2 years old or under. See, this is why many have argued that the wise men did not come on the day of Jesus' birth, probably when he was a toddler. Now, Joseph had been there for the registration, according to Luke, But for whatever reason, Joseph and Mary stayed there away from home for quite some time, that he might learn from the wise men when this was happening. Then was fulfilled what had been spoken through the prophet Jeremiah. A voice is heard in Ramah, wailing in loud lamentation, Rachel weeping for her children. She refused to be consoled because they are no more. Now, when Jeremiah prophesied that, initially most people would assign it to the loss of the nation of Israel, going into exile, going to be wiped out of the face of the earth. And in the Babylonian captivity, that's what happened. Israel was taken off the land. 10 of the 12 tribes really disappeared from historical records afterwards. So there's a lot of weeping for the children of Israel. But this is applied to all children, really, both in this time, in the time of Herod, or in the time of our present, this prophetic word. All children are precious in his sight. Jesus loves the little children of the world, even these that had become witnesses and martyrs to his birth. When Herod had died, an angel of the Lord suddenly appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt and said, Get up and take the child and his mother and go to the land of Israel, for those who are seeking the child's life are dead. And that's what we remember about persecution, especially when we've been going through the book of Revelation. Persecution lasts for a period of time. Remember the famous phrase in the book of Revelation, a time, time, and a half of a time. Or time, time, time and a half, 3.5 usually of 7. That comes from the prophet Daniel and others. That is the quintessential time that there will be persecution, but that time will come to an end. And go out. And then Joseph got up and took the child and his mother and went to the land of Israel. See how Joseph is being very obedient to the angel of the Lord and what the angel of the Lord is telling him. But when he heard that Archelaus was ruling over Judea in the place of his father Herod, he was afraid to go there. Now, there you have to understand Jewish geography, Israel geography. Judah was under the rule of Herod, and Archelaus was Herod's son. And so there was nervousness about going back to Bethlehem. Now, according to Luke, their sojourn in Bethlehem was temporary. But it seems in Matthew that he's starting them in Bethlehem and then moving them to Nazareth and Galilee. Nazareth and Galilee was more of a crossroads of both pagan and Jews and everybody else in between. There was not Samaritan territory, which was difficult for Jesus, but it was a place of the nations. And that's what Jesus would be, in and among not only his own people, but the nations of the world, where the gospel and his name would go out. And so here it is. He was afraid of going there, and after he warned in a dream, he went to the district of Galilee, not ruled by Herod. And there he made his home in a town called Nazareth, so that what had been spoken through the prophets might be fulfilled, that he will be called a Nazarene. And that is a play on the word Nazareth, one who does not take a blade to their hair, who has taken an oath to the Lord. And so there's a lot of wordplay that Matthew is enamored with when he writes down this story. And that is to protect Jesus. But we had to remember today, and that's why the color is back to scarlet, a testimony that sometimes we are not chosen to be a martyr, it just falls into our lap. And we need to weep for those innocent ones who have lost their lives because of these circumstances. We too get caught up in things that we cannot understand, but God still has a plan through it. And so remember that today as we mark the holy innocent ones who died by Herod. Take care. God bless. We'll see you tomorrow.